Hi, my name is Shelby Melson, and I will be doing my presentation over grass versus grain-fed beef. What is the difference? In today's society, within the last few years, there has been increased demand from consumers' point for grass-finished beef. Consumers perceive better animal welfare conditions with grass-fed beef over grain-fed beef. Grass-fed beef has been linked to being healthier than grain-fed beef, but is it really? What is grass-fed beef? Definition is beef from cattle that are raised on grass pasture or similar forages. No USDA standards are set for grass-fed beef at the moment. Not given any antibiotics or growth hormones, and the goal is to provide the cows with the most natural diet, the closest thing to their natural diet. For example, in the winter, cows are given hay for alfalfa. How is grass-fed beef raised? Typically, the cattle are turned out on open range pasture their entire lives. That means as cow-calf pairs, weanlings, yearlings, and even up to slaughter. After they are weaned, they are given grass pasture or similar forages and grouped up with cattle that are similar age. It takes roughly 24 to 36 months to achieve full maturity, and that is from birth to slaughter. Benefits of grass-fed beef. It may be healthier. It is leaner than grain-fed beef as it has a lower fat content. Cows are not subject to a feedlot setting. Cows are not given any growth hormones or antibiotics, though this is up to the producer. This isn't always the case. There is minimal effort needed by the producer, so they don't really need to go out and feed them twice a day. It's more of just checking fences, making sure none of them are sick or wounded. Disadvantages of grass-fed beef. There is a higher cost associated with the production and buying of grain-fed beef than grain-fed beef. Does not usually grade USDA prime or choice. There is lower fat, so it has less marbling. It's nearly twice the finish time of grain-fed beef. There is a slight cooking difference compared to grain-fed beef, as there is that lower fat content. Grass-fed and grass-finished are not the same thing. Pay attention to labeling. Grass-fed is 100% grass, whereas grass-finished is where they can feed a certain amount of grain with the grass. It requires an extensive amount of land, at least 2 acres per cow as well. Here's another example of the pasture setting with the cows out on the pasture. What is grain-fed beef? Definition is finishing the growing phase by being fed grain products, usually in a feedlot type situation. They are given corn or similar grains. After weaning, cows typically spend time in a stocker setting. It means they are turned out onto a pasture for that period of time until they are either sent to the feedlot or the sale barn. Once they are sent to the feedlot around 8 to 12 months, these cattle will spend on average around 4 to 6 months in the feedlot. The entire process takes 12 to 18 months, and that is from birth to slaughter. Benefits of grain-fed beef. Lower costs than grass-fed beef. It is more readily available for consumers as well compared to grass-fed beef. There's an increased gain for the cattle in a shorter range of time. As I said, it's only half the time as compared to grass-fed beef. It takes less than half the time. Economical way of raising cattle and is most commonly practiced. On average, USDA choice, or they grade USDA choice or prime, they have a higher marbling content, and we all know that fat equals flavor. Disadvantages of grain-fed beef. are fattier than grass-fed beef. Can be given antibiotics or growth hormones depending on what the producer feels is correct for them. Feedlot is a pretty small confined area for the cattle to live in for the 4 to 6 months. They stand in this mud pen. They basically stand in their own urine and feces. There's no shade, and there is a big concern over E. coli and contamination within the water or even surrounding areas. Here's an example of the feedlot setting. So as you can see, they're in these small pens. You can see the mud, there's no grass, and they are not given any shade. Here's another example of even more cows in this pen, and it's just such a small area. So the differences between an appearance of the grass-fed and grain-fed beef. Grass-fed is on the left, and you can see that it has a darker area where the fat is. It's more of a yellow appearance. The grain-fed beef on the right has that white, bright fat and has more marbling, as you can see as well. There are some nutritional differences between grass-finished beef and grain-finished beef. Grass-finished beef has more desirable saturated fat, fatty acid profile. There's more neutral cholesterol than elevating cholesterol. It's definitely higher in vitamin A and vitamin E content. There's also a higher percentage of cancer-fighting antioxidants such as glutathione and superoxide dismutase. It has the lower fat content as well, and it has a slight grass flavor. In conclusion, I believe that we should stick to the grain finishing diet for cattle. 80% of the beef in the United States is produced this way, and it's very efficient as compared to the grass-fed beef. Grass-fed beef will be a niche in the industry, I think, because there is just not enough land or time. It takes too much to produce those cattle. In my opinion, you can honestly eat whichever type of beef you want. Both are good options nutritionally. Of course, if you are wanting that lower fat content, you would want to eat the grass-fed beef. But other than that, they are both good for you. Thank you. And if you have any questions, leave them below.